This is my second talk on ayahuasca. This is more a cautionary tale of the experience I had. Ayahuasca facilitates the soul leaving the body. It naturally occurs within the body. We are flooded in DMT, not ayahuasca. We are flooded in DMT when we go to sleep at night and the spirit leaves the body, or the soul leaves the body and travels. A child is flooded in it in the first 13 weeks of gestation while it's in the mother's womb. It is present when dying or expiring and being born. It's natural. It's a natural occurrence within the body. Ayahuasca facilitates the soul accessing higher planes. It helps to give the individual much greater in-depth and insights that they may be blind to. That's why it's called the truth or consciousness. On the lowest level, which is dealing with the ego alone, or the physical plane, and the emotional level, it allows you to see those things that you're in denial of, parts that you can't see. So it offers you transformation. It offers you the opportunity to expand your consciousness, to come more fully into your divine loving heart and who you really are. My second ayahuasca experience was conducted by a Christian organization. Now, I did not know this at the time. I didn't know there was different organizations, if you like, running it. I just assumed it was all shamanic, by souls who are at an advanced state of their own evolution. So when I went along to this second ayahuasca ceremony, I first became aware that there was a table there. It was T-shaped. It had on it a statue of the Virgin Mary, a statue of Jesus, and a photograph of some man with a beard, a long beard. And he was the man who had some visionaries with the ayahuasca, obviously in either Peru or Brazil. I don't really know, because I don't know about the person per se, or really what his visions were. I presume that his visions were not what I experienced by the facilitation of the ceremony. It was called Santo Daime. That's D-A-I-M-E. Now, I don't know if they're all run the same way or I just got unlucky. Anyhow, I sort of had an oh-oh moment when I seen the statues and the symbols of Christianity. Because of my own experience of Christianity, being brought up as a Christian in my early days and schooled at Christian schools. So being aware of the severe discipline the commands, the you must obey, do what I say, do what you're told. So it most certainly did not disappoint on that front. All of that was very present throughout my experience. Excuse me. We were first told that there would be rules. So you have to bear in mind that ayahuasca is all about soul emancipation, soul freedom, to help release you, to help transform you, to allow you the freedom to experience what your soul at its level. You will always only experience what is in a line with your own soul at any given time. Your soul growth will be complemented by the ayahuasca. The revelations are on the level that you are at, so it's very much an individual thing. The more consciously aware you are, the more fully in heart you are, the more aware you are of the bigger picture and astrotheology and what our whole universe is about, then you will get a much more heavenly or loving, powerful, universal experience. If you're on very much on an earth or an awareness of earth and universe, but it'll help connect you on that level and give you much greater insights as well. And as I said, on the lowest level, which is the ego, which is very much dealing with the purging of the ego, the letting go of old habits and the emotional attachment to the drama and the traumas. So it's very much bringing you into awareness of what is drama and what is trauma. And to help assist you stepping beyond that to a better way of dealing with life and the letting go of what does not serve us well. So the rules were, we must sit around a table, we must stay within a group, not to fold your arms, not to cross your legs. Now I thought, okay, sitting for 6 hours, different. I expected to lie down, which would have been preferable for me, but being of an open mind and open to new experiences, I decided this is fine, I'll go along with it, this is what I've paid for and this is what I'm here to experience. So the next thing I discovered is that you are not allowed, or you were not allowed, to choose your own seat. There was a lot of time spent designating who was going to sit where. The males and the females were separated. Now, separation, think about it. The ayahuasca coming together, expanding the mind, progressing. The men are sitting on one side and the ladies are sitting on the other side. Now, there was quite a few more females than there were men or males. So the females were crushed a lot closer together. Our seats were very close together. There was no space between the seats. And because of the sun beating down on procedures, some people wanted to be more under the shade. So the seats were moved in even closer so that we had no personal space whatsoever. So, sitting in a very confined space with the person next to you and the people behind you very close. And because we were seated in kind of rows, each was going to have to walk past each other. So we were constantly being interrupted during the session with having to turn my knees to the right or turn to the left, depending which way people were coming in and out all day long as we were progressing. So there was always going to be that interference. Another great interference was the music was supplied by everyone there, for everyone was going to be singing all day long, singing along throughout this entire experience non-stop. Now, I found two great problems with this. One was that after every second song, I'm sure it was every third song or thereabout, we had to stand up and sing it. So it was a constant day of stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. Now that was very much interfering with the experience of taking ayahuasca, because you're constantly being dragged into 3D reality, being told what to do. The second problem for me therein was that this singing was completely and utterly out of tune and off key. Toneless, just 6 hours of a lot of people singing very gustily out of tune and off key. When you're as finely tuned as I am, and you're pitch perfect within self, you're very aware of everything and anything that is not harmony, not harmonious. So I knew with this combination and the hard plastic chair that it wasn't going to be an easy experience by any means. Anyhow, we had our first ayahuasca drink after very long talks as well. I don't speak Spanish and I don't understand Spanish, and that was okay. I was in Mexico, so you know, that's my problem, nobody else's. But the talking went on for rather a long time. There was a lot of talking and a lot of singing. Singing was all day long, and the talking, anytime there was no singing, there was constant talking. So noise was another constant interfering factor. So we had our first drink of ayahuasca. I was aware that I was given a very small portion. I thought, that's okay, I'll go with that. I drank my ayahuasca. And like my first experience with the Mother Ayahuasca, I didn't have any visionaries at all. I felt it on a cellular level. I could feel it working. I had a much more awareness of my cellular body, and knowing that it was being worked on. So I just have an awareness of that. So I observed those around me, since I wasn't having any visuals. I was just observing what was going on within the group. Also, the tutors or the facilitators of the ceremony, the males were all dressed in uniformly. The men were dressed in dark blue trousers, a white shirt, and a dark blue tie. The ladies were dressed in an ankle length dark blue pleated skirt, white blouse, and a dark blue dicky bow or neck bow tie. So there was uniform there as well. I wasn't allowed to wear trousers. I was dressed in white. I wasn't allowed to participate in the ceremony without wearing a skirt. So someone gave me a skirt which was very much bigger than I am, so it kind of wrapped around me like a sack, because I'm only little. So that was okay. I thought, that's, I can handle that. Just the awareness of the separation. 5D reality is the ethereal world. 3D reality, 3D and 5D coming together. One rules, uniform, commands, dictatorship versus freedom. So I also became aware that amongst the facilitators, there were those who had a silver badge on, a silver sun, and there were those that had a gold sun. So I became aware of a hierarchy as well. One person was being promoted during this ceremony because at one point he was given his gold badge. He was hugged and patted on the back and words of praise. So the human was deciding again when someone's soul was at a level to be promoted. The universe doesn't promote you. Your awareness becomes ever more refined. Your gifts become ever more evident as your awareness increases. The universe will complement you ever more, depending on your soul growth. Very few humans will give you this acknowledgement. The universe will always give you exactly that which you have earned. That is what you will receive. It's not up to a human being to decide what level you are at. The evolved human can see what level others are at. In some instances, but where there is religion in dominance or control, rules and regulations, these are not signs of evolved souls. There's no freedom in regimentation. When things are regimented, it disallows for freedom. It's all out there outside of yourself, waiting for someone else to compliment you or allow you or to deny you or overlook you. There were a lot of facilitators. There was a lot in training. There was a lot of young girls in training. I had an awareness of some not so pleasant energy as well, I must add, from at least two of the females. People don't need to speak for you to be aware of their energy vibration and what they're putting out there. You know, whether there's anger there, whether there's whatever. The sensitive soul will always be aware of these things. They can see clearly what is going on within another person without the other person having to speak. This is the nature of the evolution within a soul. This fine-tuned awareness of how others operate, what's going on behind the facade. So I became aware of the various colours of the people displayed in front of me, depending on what stage of sickness they were. You know, some were particularly yellow and green. So this was a little bit of enhancement with the ayahuasca, that I was actually able to see how sick some people were. I could see that some were having visions or visuals. Some were being mightily sick. So for the first couple of hours, I just sat there listening to this, the disharmonious singing, and still appreciating it. Believe you me, I was taking it still in a loving sense. I just knew the experience was not going to be anything near as powerful as I'd had the first time. Because the first time there was nothing interfering with the experience. It was done in the most gentle, loving, quiet environment. Safe environment. I knew sitting on a chair for 6 hours was not going to be comfortable for me, sitting on a plastic chair for 6 hours. That was another factor. I only had a little towel to sit on. Anyhow, the second glass of ayahuasca, we queued up again. We had to queue up in rows to accept the drink. I accepted the glass, and again there was quite a small portion. So I drank it and I sat down. And after 10 or 15 minutes, the visuals are starting to come in. I can see, like, the first experience that I had, it was coming in exactly the same way, where it was coming in towards me. It was closing in. It was getting very intense. I mean, when you're having an intense experience like this, your physical body is redundant. You know, you're physically very weak, You're physically very, very vulnerable. This I must point out, which makes sense because your soul and your mind is with some greater experience. DMT facilitates, as I said, the soul leaving the body. So the physical body is redundant. So the visuals are coming in. They're coming in, and I thought, I'll embrace this now. This was a very, very, very intense energies coming in to begin with, like as I said, through the revolving doors, or all the various powerful loving energies coming to purge and cleanse and purify. But because there were so many people sitting around me at such close quarters, singing very loudly, out of tune and off key, I couldn't go with the experience. It couldn't go anywhere. It couldn't take off because the disharmonious sounds prevented it going any further. I wasn't able to experience a greater unification with the experience. Everyone's sitting around you, too close, you've got no space. So I was aware that there was two things. One was trying to take me on a great journey, and the other was keeping me here. It's the battle between 3D and 5D, and nothing to do with me. Rather, how the ceremony was conducted kept it very much in 3D, because it kept you actively doing something. You either had to be actively singing, actively hitting a little percussive instrument, whatever, constantly having to stand up, sit down, have people go past you, left, right, back and forward all day long. So you can't, it's disturbing the experience and interfering with the experience. So the reason I couldn't go with the experience was literally that. The constant disruption. So I was quite disappointed that, having experienced it before, thank goodness that I'd had my first ayahuasca experience prior to coming to this Santo Daime. Because if this had been my first experience, I would never, ever have considered taking ayahuasca again. So the importance of choosing your facilitators and researching them really very well before you go on a ceremony, please, because it can be the difference between having a horrendous experience or having a beautiful experience. So please, please choose your facilitators very carefully. Because if the facilitators' souls are not at such an advanced level, then they're not going to be able to facilitate the best experience for you. If they haven't reached that level of attainment or experienced that, they cannot allow for you to experience that, simply because they don't know that yet. They have not reached that level yet. They're still tied up with the hierarchy and the uniforms and the obedience and all these 3D illusory nonsense, which has nothing to do with reality. It's rituals. This experience was full of rituals, ritualisms that prevented me experiencing what I came to experience. It threw me back to my childhood of church and school and obedience. I didn't come there for that. I came to experience the sacred vine. It was most unfortunate that this is the case. It's not their fault that they are still at that stage of their evolution, but where all this ritualism is concerned, that is all ego, that is all level 1, that is all the serpent level of experience yet. It cannot be at level 2, the cougar, or at level 3, the eagle, if there's still ritualism involved. When your soul is free, it's free from all of that. It's free from the ritualism. So between the second and the third glass of ayahuasca, there was the opportunity to have some, I'm assuming it's some plant in powder form, blown up each nostril. I think it was called something like Roma. I can't swear to the name. But I observed all the tutors first taking this. Something's come on my screen there, excuse me a second. I observed the tutors all partaking in this and having it blown up one nostril and then blown up the other nostril and then being violently sick. They were absolutely roaring as they were heaving, you know, violently sick. I thought, interesting. I thought I'd have it anyway, you know. I haven't had an experience with the first two, so I haven't really had you know, too much acceleration of anything in the first couple of glasses, so I decided to partake. So I was told to keep your throat closed, which I did. Clamp your throat closed. There was discrepancy between two people, misinformation for me. One said to inhale the powder or the plant or whatever it was that was being blown up my nostril. And another one said, don't inhale it at all. So as I'm standing there, I think, do I, don't I? Do I, don't I? So I thought, well, I won't inhale, but I might inhale a little bit. Trying to get a happy medium there, you know. So anyway, it was blown up both my nostrils and I wasn't sick at all. I was singularly the only person who partook of this part of the ceremony who wasn't sick. Actually, I felt great. And it was just the wonderful opportunity to stand away from being clamped in on a chair, you know, having my space invaded and to be able to stand, to have the freedom to just sway and enjoy it. So I had about 10 minutes there of just feeling beautiful, just feeling really peaceful, just really feeling love. Which I feel anyway, but you need space. If you're going to experience ayahuasca, you need space to move around or to just lie down. But enough space between you and the next person where you should be able to put your arms out at full length. That should be close enough to the next person. Not crammed together. like in sardines in a tin. So, the third ayahuasca drink. When it came my turn, I spoke to the lady and I said, really, I haven't really felt anything or seen anything. I'm not getting the visuals. I haven't been allowed to go with the visuals. Well, I couldn't explain that to her, but I said, I'm not experiencing what I came to experience. Can I have more? So she gave me 2 or 3 times what she'd given me the first or second time, and then she topped it up even more, which amounted to about the same as amount that I'd had at the first ceremony that I spoke about in my prior video on ayahuasca. So I drank this back and sat down. And as I sat down, very shortly, the clouds were coming over and it started to rain. And it was beating it down with rain. It was really heavy, and I just had a light t-shirt on and the towel that I was sitting on, so I put the towel over my head. So when everyone had had their ayahuasca and was sitting back down, the tutors decided that everyone should move inside the house because of the rain. So some people were finding it quite difficult to walk at this stage because, hey, you're taking ayahuasca. So we were all bailed into this house. There wasn't a lot of room. Once we got into one room, we were no sooner there than we moved to another room. And again, the males were all at one side and the females were at the other side. Now, bearing in mind it's a small room, so space is confined even more again than it was outside, because there was a lot more females than there were males. So I'm sat on the floor with my back in the corner of a wall. I'm sort of between 2 rooms, and everyone's walking past and my legs are getting in the way, and oh dear. So anyway, the visuals started coming in then. The visions started coming in powerfully, incredibly intensely, incredibly intense. And this is the time when you really need to be. I explained this in my first video where they come in really intense, when I started to feel really sick or ill, feeling really unwell for about 10 or 15 minutes. Well, if you can imagine, it is at that stage of the visions where they're really intense, and I can feel them coming in around my head, and I thought, yes, go with this. It's coming in powerfully. I'm just thinking, I am love, I am light, I am truth. And the next thing, the tutor says, everyone back outside again. The rain stopped, let's go outside. And I'm thinking, I can't get up. I can't move. I can't be moved at this stage. This is so intense. So I'm being interrupted here, thinking, so that's making me feel ill. Thinking, they want me to go outside now. Thinking, whoa, you know, this is too much. I need peace. I need calmness. I need no interruptions. And then there's a beautiful soul. There was one very beautiful soul there. She was very ethereal. And she come to escort me outside. I said, excuse me, I said, I am in the middle of this experience. It is taking off. Can you please leave me alone? I'm feeling really unwell here. She said, you've got to go outside. Now, if you bear in mind that your body is redundant when you're going into this experience, ayahuasca, the facilitators should be offering the initiates or whoever their full protection and care and attention. I had taken my sandals off. Now I could hardly feel, my body, when you really are going into the visuals and the visions, your body really, your physical body ceases to exist. So to try and bring myself back into this physical realm, to put my shoes, to put my sandals on, to try and stand up and to maneuver myself outside, it was most shocking. It was most difficult. I was scared. My body was so vulnerable. My physical existence was so vulnerable. Because you have to understand, when your pineal gland is fully open and your soul is accessing the greatest consciousness or the greatest universal awareness, you really should not be disturbed. There should not be anything there to disturb you outside of yourself. I mean, if you're disturbed within yourself, that's a different thing altogether, and you get to be sick and whatever. But outside interference, disturbing your experience, it was most shocking, I have to tell you. It was most shocking. To be full on in the middle of this trip, if you like, which should have been the most glorious experience of purification. Because already when you're in this kind of experience, your temple, your solar plexus, your colon is very, very, very tender. Ayahuasca ain't gonna stop for you, you know. Whoa, boy, oh boy. I needed to be able to lie down and respect my temple and go with the purification that was coming to me, the purging and the purification. Instead, I was having to try and put on sandals, try and stand up, try and maneuver myself outside. I felt very ill. It was incredibly disturbing. I asked the lady, can you leave me first before... She says, no, I've been told to get you out of the house by her superior. One of the tutors or one of the facilitators. She was one of the facilitators, but one of the ones above her again. So she said, I don't have a choice. I thought, right. Unreal. I said, I need to lie down. She said, you can't lie down. I said, I need to lie down. She said, you can't lie down. Come this way. They're not listening to me. They don't know what my needs are. My needs were very simple. I need to lie down somewhere. I need to lie down for this experience or to complete this experience. And all they were interested in was that I should go back and sit in that group around that table. I couldn't possibly do that because I was feeling so incredibly unwell and disturbed. And the visuals were coming in. So I really didn't need to be around even more disruption. And the caterwauling or cacophony of sounds which were so disturbing. No way could I sit down amongst that while I was feeling as I was feeling. So not being allowed to lie down, I could just, all I did was just stay in this garden area and just rock. Pat my heart, just continue to pat my heart area and nurture my colon and my solar plexus. Again, I was going to have a mega experience because my pineal gland has already been activated long since, many years ago. So, 10 or 15 minutes later, she's interrupted me again. You must come and sit down. I can't do that. So I just stayed and rocked. Now the visuals were quite beautiful. They were stunning. Again, all those rainbow coloured, electric, powerful. I mean, it was the most, the energy, I can't begin to tell you unless you actually experience it. The energy is so powerful. My goodness God. I couldn't begin to tell you. It really is a field of energy that's nothing I've ever experienced in this realm. But the colours, the living colours of that cactus or the cacti around me, the rainbow colours of them, the rainbow colours of the trees, the streaming energies amongst all the plants, and just everything was absolutely stunning. But because I couldn't lie down, and I was constantly being interrupted in the back of my mind, and constantly being aware that they want me to sit down. There's somebody standing there marshalling me. Just like being in a military camp. You will do what you're told, you will obey. Don't do what is best for you, do what we tell you. So, that lady left. That was a beautiful lady. And another one took over. She was a bit more of a sergeant major type. Her energy wasn't so pretty. She was pretty peeved She was pretty fed up that I wasn't going to sit down with the group. She said, you must come and sit with the group. So I just kept standing there. I turned away again from her and just kept rubbing my stomach and being kind to myself and just saying, I am love, I am light, I am truth while I'm watching these visuals. But because I felt so unprotected and interfered with by this group, I couldn't get the full enjoyment of the experience because of this. So several more times after every 10 or 15 minutes she would say, you must come and sit down with the group now. I mean, it was tough enough going through what I was going through without sitting down in the middle in confined space amongst all this disturbance, noise, talking, movement, singing out of tune, interrupting you with people coming up and down rows. I was already being constantly interfered with by this lady. So in the end, maybe after about, I don't know, half an hour, 3/4 of an hour of harassment, if you like, I felt obliged to go and sit down. So I was still very Bambi-like, and I was still very vulnerable, very wobbly, tottering on my legs, which is why I say you must be allowed to lie down, you know. Ayahuasca facilitates your soul leaving your body. It's leaving your body to explore something that you haven't experienced before. In my case, a very magnificent beyond this world experience. So my physical carriage was in bits, you know. If somebody had poked me in the arm, I would have toppled over. No problem. You know, that's it really, you know. So I arrived back at the group and I went to sit down and she's hauled me back. I thought, God, make your mind up. She said, you can't sit down now. They're singing. Wait until they finish singing. I'm thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, make your mind up. So I looked around. I seen a seat behind me. I sat down. It was a wooden seat. You can't sit there. Here we go. But I didn't get up. I just turned around and seen it was one of the male overseers' seat. So I just nodded at him, smiled at him and acknowledged him. And he just smiled at me, so he didn't mind me sitting on his seat. So then I delicately made my way back to my seat. And of course, I wasn't going to have any more visuals then because I'd been robbed of it. She did not allow me to stay in the garden. You must be with the group. You must be in the group. Then I had the audacity to cross my ankles. And the girl next to me said, you can't do it, she told me. So I gave her such a look. She didn't dare say it a second time. I said, here we go, telling me what to do. You can't do this, you must do that. You can't do this, you must do that. And I'm supposed to be having the most amazing experience of my life. I tell you folks, I was traumatized. I was absolutely traumatized. And the rain came on again. So I've taken my towel. My towel's already wet, this time from the last big shower. So I'm trying to keep the rain off, and when I'm not keeping the rain off, I'm putting it around my shoulders to try and keep warm, because I became incredibly cold. I was freezing inside and out, and I had nothing to put on. The temperature had dropped greatly because everyone put on coats and heavy cardigans and jumpers and stuff. I didn't have any. I didn't have anything with me. All I had was this towel, which was wet, a little hand towel, so it just about reached around my neck, holding it there. And I'm still feeling very vulnerable and shaky and weak, but I was frozen. I know it was shock. I was shaking violently for about easy a half hour. I'm just wishing it was over. I want it to be over. I want to go and lie down. I want to get away from this ceaseless, out of tune, singing the same monotonous voices, the same tone, the same tune to every single song or hymn. They were all exactly the same. 6 hours of this monotonous, disharmonious caterwauling. And then when that was done with, the talking, and then the tutors, they talked and they talked and they talked and they talked and they talked. And I thought, God, will you ever stop? Can you just finish it now? Just let me lie down. Let me recover. The sun then decides to set, and I got a glimpse of the sun coming under there was a couple of like tarpaulin sheets that were covering the 2 tables, so that the tutors were covered from the rain and the sun, but not the rest of us. So I leaned down so that I could look directly at the sun. And obviously, since the DMT, the ayahuasca, and my pineal gland being already open, but expanded. I mean, my consciousness was expanded so much greater that when I looked at the sun, I could look directly at that sun without feeling any discomfort on the eyes at all. I just stared, and I stared at the sun. I just connected in my loving heart with the great universe, and my God, the rest of the visuals I got through the sun. It just, the outpouring of love from the universe upon my soul as I sat there was mighty. I know a lot of people got to see this. Seeing me connect directly and powerfully by a physical means for them to see the sun. The absolute images and shapes and intensities of colour that came via that sun was just phenomenal. So I just said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I knew all the men, which the ladies were facing the men, 2 sides of the camp. So the guys were all able to see the sun pouring and projecting such a mighty, radiant display upon me. And all the males around the table and the 2 females at the top table, the lady who was running, who was one of the facilitators, and her second in command, if you like, they were able to see, they would have been able to see this display. But I was still so terribly, terribly cold. So after the sun had gone right down, I was still shivering. I was still in a terribly, terribly cold. Nobody offered me a blanket or anything to put around me. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm sure everyone was involved with their own story. Just saying, as the tutors should be observing and overseeing everything that's going on with the souls in their care. So when eventually they all stopped talking and packed in, I'm still pretty much out there, you know. I'm very, still very connected with this experience. So I wanted just to be away from everyone. I'd had enough of people. I really had enough of human interference. Obviously so greatly intensified under the ayahuasca, the awareness of the level of interference, the complete sensitivity to the interference. So anyway, I'm hugging a few of the tutors before and a few of the initiates that were there. And I had 3 of the female tutors hug me and call me medicine woman. So in that sense, I am glad there was also those who recognized my stage of evolution, even if they didn't or couldn't interfere in the best way possible. That's a contradiction, isn't it? Interfere in the best way possible, but to assist me in the best way possible, to facilitate the best experience that I could have had on that day. I just hope that if anyone if any of those hosts get to see this video, or if somebody explains to them what I have spoken about, I sincerely hope it will assist them in re-evaluating and looking at how they conduct the ceremony so that they may do it in a much more gentle fashion, a much more nurturing fashion. What I experienced absolutely robbed me of my experience. It took away from the experience that I could have had. I did, in actual fact, feel robbed. I felt violated and I felt traumatized. So I will say to anyone again, please, if you intend embarking on an ayahuasca ceremony, and I believe everyone should, because it really will assist you. It will assist your evolution. It will afford you insights and possibly visions and whatever that your soul needs. But be very careful who you have this experience with. Research the teachers or the facilitators very much before you embark on a journey. Know that they know what they are doing. Know that their soul is advanced enough to be conducting these ceremonies. There should be no rules and you must obey, other than obviously just to keep your environment safe. There will be guidelines and outlines of what to expect, but it should be non-interfering. It should not disrupt your experience. It should not offer any brutality into your experience. It should be gentle. Now the next day, one of the ladies said, I was staying the evening. I was staying the night because I paid for the ceremony and board and food, although I didn't eat any food. I was too disturbed after the experience to eat anything. I said to her the next morning before I left, she asked about my experience, and I told her their English wasn't very good, so you can't really explain very well what I wanted to say. But I did say that I felt there was too much noise and it was too close together. And for me, she said, but that's how life is. I thought I rest my case. That is the level of experience they're still at, 3D reality. I said, no, that is not my reality. So I explained to her that I'd spent several years away from noise and interference, and many years away, basically away from humans, close to nature in the forests, the ocean. So preparing my soul to come into its highest octave. And in order to do that, you absolutely need peace. You absolutely need stillness. You absolutely need quietness. None of these things were offered at this ceremony. So, in case I've left anything out, I'll just have a quick look. All that is wrong in the world of illusion meets ayahuasca reality. Yeah, when you're transiting between these two states, you need to know you're safe. You need to know you're protected. Because you are very physically vulnerable. I wasn't allowed to fly. I wasn't allowed to leave this lower vibrational frequency level. I was dragged relentlessly into noisy, disruptive, chaotic, interfering 3D reality. Command, obey, disciplinarian. The illusory world of existence. A complete contrast and contradiction to everything that the Mother Vine represents. Freedom, expansion, the ethereal realms, the heavens. It was a patriarchal, authoritarian, dictatorship experience. Now, I don't really need to say more than that. Rather than the beautiful lady, the very angelic lady, who was one of the facilitators. Now, I did observe her when I was back sitting around the table, not the table, but on the chairs. I seen her face transform into a really elderly, old Native American medicine woman. So, I'm just assuming that's one of her prior lives. So I did explain this to her afterwards, and I did tell her that she was a most beautiful soul. You know, she was a kindred heart. She was pure. You know, she was actually in the most elevated position amongst all the facilitators there, although she didn't have an elevated role within that. You know, you've a man-made role of what level you're at, so there you go. I had an awareness that she was the most evolved being amongst that group of facilitators. Anyway, I've just seen that my battery's gone, so I will leave it at that. And I thank you for listening, and I hope that this has served to assist you. Okay, namaste.